Mavericks lose once again, 125 to 112 to the Boston Celtics. Luka has a big game on national TV. Just wasn't enough. Point blank, simple from the Mavericks. Some positive signs in the fourth. I'll talk about those, but we'll also have a little truth talk on some things, what's going wrong with the Mavs at the moment. Coming up on today's Locked On Mavs. Boom.
Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome to Locked On Mavs. This is one of your co-hosts, Isaac Harris, half of Locked On Mavs. Contributor to Mavs.com and a Studio 41 in the corner 3 on 97.1. The Freak. Woo! Man, at least the fourth quarter of this Boston game gave us a little bit of hope, a little bit of stuff to talk about on a positive note, or else this is going to be a really depressing Thanksgiving Day pod. As a lot of you guys are listening to this on Thanksgiving. You know what you do on Thanksgiving after you eat a lot of food? You might sweat. What a segue. Today's episode is brought to you by Sweatblock. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweatblock. Save 20% with the promo code Locked On at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. All right. If you're watching this on YouTube, you know what to do. Leave a comment below, anything below, whatever you want to type. I don't even care. I mean, if you want to type a recipe to a Thanksgiving dish, I don't care. If you want to tell me who you blame for this loss, I don't care. Just write something as a comment on YouTube. Really frustrating loss. Yeah, frustrating loss. You know, I was trying to think of an analogy for this because I know you guys just love my analogies. That's sarcasm. About just like kind of a reality check of, I trying to think of, if you're a high schooler, if you remember those moments in high school, if you finally got some confidence, you're like, all right, I think I'm on this certain level to where I think this person will be cool if I ask them out. I think I am on that level. And then you see that person like at a locker with somebody else that's like the next level of you, and you're like, all right, I'm not on that level. And it's like this reality check of, okay, yeah, I kind of get it. And I think this is a little bit, that's a horrible analogy, by the way. I think this is a little bit of where Dallas was in this. Not that deep down that I think if, Jason Kidd was given, truth serum, that he would be like, yes, we're winning the title. But I think this was, Nico Harrison obviously was there, showed him on the broadcast. But I think this was for most of this game, and I don't know how I want to even judge that fourth quarter. There was something there, a little bit of something. Even shout out to Brad Townsend from Dallas Morning News, who tweeted out a brag about the Mavs in the fourth quarter, about them kind of finding something. And then he's like, albeit it was kind of garbage time. I'm like, oh dang, Brad just taking the good part, whatever we want to call for it, there in that second half. But because it was a little bit of garbage time ish. I think they found a little, there were a few things, we'll talk about it later on in this show, that they found in the second half. But I do think there was a little bit of like Boston kind of like letting up the gas pedal a bit. And anyway, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But I think this coming out of this game, that if you were in the camp of, man, Dallas is gonna, they'll start hitting shots, we'll be just fine, the West is wide open, we still got a finals run type of thing. This Boston team is dang good, man. They got a good roster. I underestimated what I underestimate. How do I word this? I thought the loss of Ime as a coach and just how good of a job he did last year would affect this team more, especially early on. Wrong on that one, because they were humming tonight. They look great. They play such a fun type of offense and basketball. They share the ball a ton. the key part of them was, so the other day, and I was on, we do the show at Mavs.com, myself, Bobby, and Kat, and the corner 97-1 the freak. We were talking about that third ball handler conversation, and I'm in the camp of, hey, we still need that third ball handler. I will die on that hill. But Bobby posed a question back to me. It's like, is it the third ball handler, or is it the fact that we like having players out on the floor, pretty much everybody who could put the ball on the floor and get to the basket and drive and kick? And, I watched this Boston team, and that's what they have, right? Like, they don't have just defined 3-and-D dudes who, it's just like the Bruce Bowen types, right? They don't have those type of guys. Everybody that they're putting out on the floor can drive to the basket. This is the benefit of having both of your star players as wings, as Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, great on the defensive end, great on the offensive end. It's like, what a duo. Luka called them probably the best duo in the league, before the game. And that it's just looking at these other guys, and you're like, Derek White can put the ball on the floor and drive. You go across Brogdon, these other guys that they're putting out there, they're not just these defined 3-and-D guys. And I think there's something to that. Because we've talked about before, I love Reggie and Dorian and all the defined 3-and-D guys that they've put these pieces around Luka, but you kind of see it a little bit. This was a horrible game for Maxi Kleber to miss, because Maxi is huge when it comes to this type of matchup with Boston. But yeah, it's just I think you saw that difference there with Boston. They just have a better overall talented roster. I mean, Dallas gave up 100 points in 3 quarters. I think it was like 101, 102. They crossed over the 100-point mark before the fourth quarter started. Like, yeah. Defense tonight just sucked for Dallas. When you look at offense for Dallas tonight as a team, they shot over 50% from the field, 54% from the field. They shot 36% from 3 tonight for Dallas. But I mean, heck, if you're looking at it and saying, man, we hit 44 of our 82 shots, it's not the end of the world, right? I mean, they were shooting over 50%. When they're down by 20 in this game, it's like, all right, can we just play a lick of defense out here? Can we just now? Boston was, you have these games where you go against some of these teams and they just drain a million threes. They hit, everything they throw up. They shot 54% from the field. They shot 50% from the 3-point line. They were 17 of 34 from the 3-point line. Boston was tonight, but this was more than that. This is not a game that I'm writing off of saying, man, this team was just on fire. Nothing much you can do about that. I think this was a little bit more than that. I think this was, I don't think you can just write off this game as a Boston just hit shots type of game. I think this was Boston's on a different level type of game. Boston is a title contender type of game. And we're not. Like, it's just where we're at with the roster. We're just not on that level. If you're Dallas and you're walking away from that, saying that as a front office, as a coaching staff, probably, and saying, all right, what is the next step with that? So coming up after the break, let's get into this fourth quarter, the second half. Let's start with the good stuff first. And then we'll get into, I do want to have a Luka Doncic conversation and his game, both the good and the bad, because I do think Luka deserves a little bit of criticism tonight, despite what you might think. This pod is brought to you by let me put the lower third up. BetOnline. Our friends at betonline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football, guys, today is Thanksgiving. You know how many fun games there are today? A lot. The Cowboys play on Thanksgiving every single year. They got a game here in Dallas. So hit up BetOnline for that. Basketball. We know Mavs game's coming up this weekend on Saturday. The World Cup's going on for soccer. I mean, the list goes on what you could go to betonline.net for. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest, easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's keep talking about this game. When you look at the second half of this game, I mean, this was a 20-point game. I mean, early on, and I'm like, really? The night before Thanksgiving, the night before we're about to cook this incredible ham and just enjoy some good football and good food tomorrow. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna watch this like 20-point blowout here on national TV. And national TV, it just adds a little bit more sting to it because then everybody on NBA Twitter is tweeting about it. You're getting random people texting you who don't watch any of the other games, but they're going to watch that one, especially because it's a holiday, 48 hours basically. And they're like texting me like, man, Dallas sucks. What's happening? It's like, here we go. I got it. I don't even know what to say, let me start up that convo. It's a fun conversation to have. It's like, well, I don't know. Anyway, second half. Mavericks actually won a third quarter. If you're driving right now, just stop your car. I don't know if you just swerved off the road for a second. If you heard me say that, 36-31 in the third quarter. It was funny because I was looking, it felt like the fourth quarter. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go look at these fourth quarter numbers. It felt like in the moment, like, man, they must have won the fourth quarter by a lot. Nope, they won the fourth quarter by 3 points, 27 to 24 there in the fourth. Mavs just couldn't play defense, but let's talk about the positive. In the second half, Luka Doncic plays pretty much all the second half, with the exception of those last few minutes there. He plays 22 out of the 24, just over 22 minutes in this game, of 24 minutes in the second half. Look at Christian Wood. He plays basically like 18 and a half out of the 24 minutes in the second half. He plays, outside of Dorian, he plays the third most minutes for the Mavs in the second half there. Luka's just like, hey, I'm not going to come out of this game. For us to have a shot in this, I'm going to have to play the distance. And he's right, because he had he had 20 of his 42 points there in the second half, but it was the Christian Wood conversation that we're all talking about right now. Plays little in the second half alone. He scores 19 out of his 26 minutes together. We're seeing the duo of what could happen with him and Luka on the floor together. This is what Jason Kidd's got to figure out, because I think how to go about this. They were talking about on the broadcast on the ESPN. They had a long conversation. I want to say it was the third quarter about just Luka, the team around Luka, the roster building around Luka. That's when they deadpanned over to Nico sitting there in Boston. And they're talking about Christian Wood and just the situation Dallas is in with him coming over from Houston. He's been in these when he's excelled in the league, it's been on these really bad teams. And I'm just repeating what they said on the broadcast. Just like yesterday's pod, I was just answering some of the questions based off some Christian Wood quotes and stuff. And I got some messages from some of y'all. So I see about me hating. I'm like, I don't hate Christian Wood. I'm just answering the dang question y'all asked me. So when they were talking about the Christian Wood experience in Dallas and how, Dallas wants him to play a certain way because they're trying to win basketball games. In the past few stops, those teams really haven't been trying to win basketball games. So can he play this winning brand of basketball? But here's the thing. If you don't win with Christian Wood playing in that type of role, that's what pushes Jason Kidd's hand in the near future. If they continue losing games and Christian Wood is in this relegated role, I don't even care about the bench stuff. I've made that very, very known of I don't give a crap about who starts and who doesn't start. I care about who finishes games and who's logging the most minutes. Because if you're telling me Christian Wood logs 35 minutes in a game and finishes the game and plays majority of a fourth quarter and him and Luka's dominating, I don't care if he starts for the first 4 minutes of a basketball game. So sorry, I could just rant about that all day. Like the 17-minute game from Christian Wood the other night and Bertans playing over him and him not finishing the game and some of that stuff. That was probably the bigger worrisome game for me than any of the games that he doesn't start. Cause I'm like, wow, he didn't play a ton of minutes. And I'm really curious on what that situation's looking like behind the scenes and all of that. But there was something there with Luka and Christian Wood and Dallas. It feels like they like him in that 6-man role, obviously. in a role that he's playing with Luka, but also without Luka, to where Luka sits. They have a source of offense when Luka's not on the floor. But we're seeing some good numbers with Luka and Christian Wood on the floor together and them running that pick and roll and all of that. So I am just so fascinated to see what what Jason Kidd does moving forward. That did he find something there in the fourth quarter? Did he, or the second half? Let's just say that, because a lot has been made about Christian Wood's defense, and rightfully so. He's not a good defender. Like, let's just get that out there. He's not a good defender. I'm about to talk about Luka Doncic's defense in just a second. He's not a good defender, but tonight against Boston, or last night if you listen to this on Thursday, it was probably the best defensive lineup from Dallas that included Christian Wood since Christian Wood has put on a Mavs jersey. And that, I think Austin Gruy tweeted this out. That's how you get more minutes with Jason Kidd. If they can look at tonight and say, hey, we played dang good defense, and I think he did. I thought he was really active around the rim, contesting some shots. He had a few lapses on defense, whatever. But I thought it was some of the best defense we've seen from him, and in particular, the lineup that he was playing with, they're playing pretty good defense there in the second half. So the question is this an eye-opening game for the coaching staff that they say, all right, we're going to make the change. Let's do this. We have to. Or is this no, I think we're going to stick to our system. We like him in that role. Boston just hit shots. We'll play better defense, and we need a bigger sample size before we change up the starting lineup and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't have the answer for you. Some people are getting really mad as I say that, and that's not even me. I'm just saying this is probably what's going through Jason Kidd and the coaching staff's mind right now of what now. I haven't seen post-game comments because, shocking, I'm not in Boston right now. I'm in Dallas with my fam, and so, I mean, he could say something after post-game right now. I have my phone in front of me, but I haven't seen anything. Somebody just rejected one of my fantasy football trades. Anyway, so I'm really curious what they do with that, with the Christian Wood situation, because they did find something there in the second half, and him and Luka playing together more. Do we see that more, whether he starts or not? Do we see them playing more minutes on the floor together? Let's just have the Luka conversation right now. Luka sucked on defense tonight. I just want to get this out of the way really quick because I'm about to brag on him a lot for putting up 42 points and just all this different stuff. Don't watch him play defense against Boston tonight. This is not a highlight reel that you're trying to clip and post on if you're trying to make the Luka defensive argument. And I get it. Some of you that are all Luka fans that are saying, well, he has such a big load on the offense. Why even pointing that out? Because I get a little bit of an issue whenever Doris Burke is on the broadcast. And I love Doris Burke. She listens to a lot of Locked On Mavs pods or Locked On pods. She has listened to a Locked On Mavs pod. So if you're listening, thank you for listening, Doris Burke. But there was a time that Doris or Mike Breen, one of them, was talking about his body language and how he just looks deflated out there. And after seeing, Boston score time after time, I'm like, we got to point some of that blame to Luka too, because some of these shots, especially there in the second half, seeing how he's contesting some shots, seeing Malcolm Brogdon just drive around him at will at times and just get to the basket and kick to the corner. That's tough. It's tough. And that's, he just wasn't really engaged defensively tonight. And yes, he had to put a lot out on the offensive floor, and he put up some massive numbers. He was really efficient on the offensive end. They started the game, Luka posting up and all that. How teams are defending Luka right now, it's fascinating to me, because these teams are trying to take away. Luka is the best, and I'll stand by this. Luka is the best person in the league at running the pick and roll, and teams are trying to take that away so much. And he doesn't even have like an elite pick. I mean, he has Dwight Powell. Dwight's really good at rolling. We've went down this all the time, but it's not like he has this like all-star center he's running pick and roll with. But teams are still so scared of that they're trying to take it away from Luka, and they're doing this. They started the game tonight with Derek White on him. And you know what doesn't happen when you start the game with the air quote mismatch? A pick and roll doesn't happen. You're not bringing another guy to come up and set a pick to try to get the mismatch at that point because you already have the mismatch. So you know what they're doing? It's like, all right, so what happened to the first few plays of the game? It was Luka Doncic post up on Derek White. Luka Doncic post up on Derek White. And you know he's not touching the ball. You know he's not even like moving really. The rest of the team, because he's not even running the pick and roll. So teams are saying, now he scored that first basket, but teams are saying, hey, go get the bucket. We don't care. Do ISO it out. Go do it. And we're seeing team after team, not doing that specifically, but team after team staying home on the shooters and saying, hey, you go beat us. You put up 42 points and we'll walk away with the win. We're confident in that. That's what Boston's game plan was going into the game. And they came out of the game saying, yeah, we were pretty confident in that. And it worked. I'm rolling right now. All right, let's do another break. This pod. Actually, let me tease the third segment. I want to talk more about the game, and I want to extend this Luka conversation just a little bit further in the third segment. But first, this podcast is brought to you by Sweat Block. All right, if anybody have any embarrassing experience about sweating at a activity or sweating at an event, and you got those khakis on, and you're like, dang it. Am I going to sweat through these khakis? You know what? I'll say this. I wore a gray suit on my wedding day. You know what was happening by the end of the night on the dance floor? Because I was going to tear up that dance floor. I was sweating through my pants. Don't care to admit it. You know what I needed? Sweat Block. I needed Sweat Block. Sweat Block wipes have been a bestseller on Amazon for the past 10 years with over 10,000 5-star reviews. You know who's not one of those reviews? Me, because I didn't get to use it on my wedding day. But if I did, I'd be a 5-star review. Don't miss the opportunity to try Sweat Block. Guys, it's just these wipes. You wipe them on you before an event, and it helps you. You don't even have to worry about it. You don't have to be embarrassed at the event. If you're looking for someone, if you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweat Block. Save 20% with promo code Locked On at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. All right, let's go back to this game. Let's keep talking about Luka a little bit. Man, I'm really curious about how many of y'all are listening to this on Thanksgiving. Hopefully, if you are, I'm giving you a break from the family. And how many of you are answering just weird questions right now? Are you answering just like off the wall questions from random families or random families? I don't know if you have random families at your house, but you could. You got that uncle over or that random cousin. You're like, here we go. Please don't ask me about the election. Please don't ask me about any of this stuff. I have family in right now. I'm going to get really quiet right now. I've already been asked about Kyrie. I'm like, wow, it's not even Thanksgiving Day. And I'm already getting asked, yeah, so you think I was, what's going on with Kyrie? What was going on, with that? And is he back playing? What happened? Like, oh, no, here we go. So anyway, hats off to you guys. Hopefully, maybe you need to take a break and say, I'm going to go listen to this podcast real quick. It's kind of like this, self-help pod, just helps me get better as a person, just learn more about myself. And you're just listening to me talk about the Mavs. Luka conversation. He had a hot start to the game. Felt like every shot he put up was awesome. I talked about how they, how they were defending him with Derek White early on. Kind of, I want to say baiting a little bit, but it was working because he was scoring, baiting him into, hey, you already got the mismatch. Let's just go ahead and post up, ISO it out, go get buckets, and the other guys on the floor will just sit there and do absolutely nothing. And you know what? I'm actually going to lean into it a little bit. And I know Mike Breen said it. I know some Mavs fans on Twitter were like, oh, here we go. Luka getting teammates involved, this whole conversation again. And I get it because the Mavs fans get frustrated and are like, oh, that's just such a lazy point because he doesn't have good enough teammates for him to get them involved. Or when he does, they just miss shots and all this. The only validation to that point of what Breen was saying that I will add to it is, and I don't even have like a stat to, back it up. So y'all can, obliterate me. I don't care. I do think there's a little bit of something. I have talked about how Luka and the Mavs start games, and how when you look back at like when LeBron was playing in Cleveland, he had this way of approaching some of the, especially the first of games, to where I'm gonna get the other guys going. I'm gonna get the Kyle Korvers going. I'm gonna get them shots. I want them to get going because I can turn it on later on. And I think there is a little bit of something of when you start a basketball game and just 90% of the shots and touches are just one player. And I get it, even if it's working. And it's like, all right, Isaac, why are you complaining about something if he was scoring a lot of points? And touche, I get what you're saying. But I think there's a little bit of something that if you're the Dorians, Reggies, Spencers, all these guys of the world, and it's like, you're going to start the game and it's just a cardio, it's just like, hey, we're going to run them down the floor. We're going to try to defend. But we know literally 8 out of 10 shots, this is going to be Luka clear out, Luka post up again. All right, Luka step back 3. Let me run down the court again. Let me come back. Luka's going to take a mid range. It feels like the way they're playing in the first quarter should be, which it actually is how they should play at the end of the game, which they do that already, but maybe you diversify it a little bit there in the first quarter. And once again, if you disagree with me, sure, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I would just like to see that a little bit. What would that look like for Luka? Would it preserve it a little bit of more energy? Would it get the guys more engaged and confident early on, knocking down some shots or at least getting shots up? I was trying to track. There were only 2 other Mavericks that had taken a shot at a certain point in the first quarter. And, some of that's by design. Some of that's how Boston's defending. We talked about that. But some of it, I think Dallas and Luka could do a little bit more of getting some other players some shots early on in the game to get, I hope that came across on a podcast where you understand what I'm trying to say. Man, Jaylen Brown and Luka. I wish they were. I about said they were a really good duo. I wish they were a good duo. I wish Jaylen Brown could come to Dallas there. But let's look at some of the other stuff in this game. Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock. We always look at their shooting stuff because they're the other starting wings. Dorian had 5 points. Dorian had 10 points. Reggie had 5 points. 3-point attempts. Luka shot 8, didn't go over 9. They still lost. But one of the things we also look at is 3-point attempts between Dorian and Reggie, 5 and 3. A combined 8 3-point attempts between the two of them. Dallas only shot 31 threes tonight. Once again, going back to a stat I pulled out, I want to say last week on this show on the corner 3 is the unguarded catch and shoot shots Dallas is generating this year. How much further behind this year it is from last year. They led the league in unguarded catch and shoot shots last year, attempts. This year, back last week, they were 24th in the league. And a lot of that's how teams are how teams are defending them. But man, we got to find ways for some of these guys to get up more shots. And I get it. You're going to yell at me and say, "Oh, Reggie's 3-point percentage," and I don't care. I still believe in him. Josh Green tonight was a plus 11. Shout out to Josh Green. Played 22 minutes. It's just one of those weird games where you watch Josh Green. You're like, all right, he's a plus 11. He was in that good defensive lineup there in the second half. He had 4 fouls and 3 points. And you're like, all right. So if you look at the box score, you're trying to figure out Josh Green's game, but he played some good defense. Got a board there. Now I just feel like I'm vamping about Josh Green. Shout out to JaVale McGee, plus 4 in this game. Solid. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, he did play okay in his minutes. Played a little over 4 minutes. But, it just goes back to the other guys. It's Christian Wood. It's Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer Dinwiddie in this game was a minus 23. Didn't have the best of games. Efficient, yes. 6 of 8 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3. But we just need him to shoot more. When you look at shot attempts in this game, Luka was at 28 shot attempts. Christian Wood, 14. Christian Wood was very efficient in this game too. Obviously 10 of 14. He had 26. I talked about him earlier. 12 rebounds for Christian Wood off the bench. A couple offensive fouls. He has to be. I tweeted this out. I joked about it, but he has to be higher up the list on this offensive foul thing. But man, they just couldn't protect the paint, especially early on. Dwight only played right around 11 minutes in this game, but there was a point there in the first quarter. I want to say like halfway through the first, they had more points. Boston had more points in the paint than Dallas did total points. They're like, all right, this is just this sucks. This is like a layup line, or Boston's getting open three. Yeah, that was just kind of the story of the game. It's weird when you look at some of the total stats in this game at the end, because Dallas had a good, fourth quarter there. But it didn't feel like a close game hardly at all. Dallas cut it to single digits there in the fourth, and you're like, all right, can they? Is this really going to be a thing? But it was pretty much a 20-point game for a lot of the half, and a lot of the game. So going full circle, Boston's just on a different level. They're a title contender. Dallas is not, and they got to figure out what the next step of that is. Is it a bigger trade? Is it a trade around the fringes? Is it adding a guy off the bench? Is it changing up the starting lineup? Is it minute allocation? What do they do first? Do they make a trade first, or do they switch up lineup stuff first? We'll see. And guys, happy Thanksgiving. If you're enjoying time with family, if you're traveling, safe travels. Thanks for listening to this on a holiday. And programming note, we will be off on Friday. No podcast on Friday. If you're going Black Friday shopping, you know what you do? Listen to our pod from a few days ago. I did a show on some bargain deals across the NBA that they could look into on the trade market. We'll be back on Saturday night after, I think, the Toronto game. After the Raptors game, we'll do a post-game pod and all of that. Hopefully it's a bounce-back win. But thanks for listening. Thankful, seriously. I know it's cliche. You might laugh at me, whatever. Thankful for all of you guys for supporting this show. We continue to do incredible numbers, both on audio format and YouTube format. Our subscribers keep on going up on YouTube, and that's because of you. And you guys help make this thing possible. You guys make this part of your routine. And seriously, Nick and I, we text randomly every, feels like a handful of times every few weeks about, this is crazy. Look how many people are still listening to the show, after losses, or, how the numbers keep going up, or subscribers. And thank you a lot for that. Helps support our show and allows us to do fun things like go to Golden State for Western Conference Finals, and doing media day interviews with Luka and players, and literally it helps us support our families too, and because it helps pay bills and all of that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you from the bottom of Nick's heart too. And safe travels. Happy Thanksgiving. See you on Saturday night. Peace out. Boom.